In a world populated by demi-humans who are human-like but have some monstrous characteristics. However, in the past they were discriminated against, so the modern world's governments often try to help the small number of demi-humans that exist. Tetsuo Takahashi is a biology teacher who is intensely interested in demi-humans because of their varied abilities. And one day a new teacher named Seiki Sato, who is a succubus, joins his school. But when he introduces himself to her, she seems frightened and avoids him. He also meets a new transfer student named Hikari Takanashi who asks for his help with another student. She takes him to Kyoko Machai, who is a Dolohan and whose head Hikari took to the nurse's office. But since her body was too heavy, Hikari went to Tetsuo for help carrying her. They also pass by the snow woman Yuki Kusakabe, who is also headed to the nurse's office. Later, Hikari introduces herself as a vampire and is worried that he has a bias against demi-humans. But Tetsuo tells her that he is interested in their stories and wants to interview them. Because he helped her, Hikari agrees to be interviewed. She helps him disprove common misconceptions of vampires, such as them hating garlic and always drinking blood, as they can still survive on normal food. She also admits she is tempted to bite other students, but she doesn't because otherwise they'll hate her. But at the end of the interview, she surprised him by biting his neck. And she later encourages Kyoko to interview with Tetsuo as thanks for helping her earlier that day. The next day they agree to an interview, and Kyoko shows her that the flame on a Dolohan's neck is not hot. She also tells him about sometimes having a separate body and head is troublesome to live with. Dolohans are also highly visible as demi-humans. So Kyoko has trouble making friends because students are scared of her appearance. Tetsuo encourages her to joke around and make friends with others, as Dolohans are a naturally lonely race. Kyoko likes her head being hugged, but when they hug, Hikari catches them and pretends to blab to the school. That night, Kyoko feels apprehensive about high school, but she is encouraged by her interview with Tetsuo. And the next day she accidentally admits to having feelings for Tetsuo to Hikari, who invites them all to go shopping together. Although Kyoko tries to prepare for an outfit, Hikari separates them by hanging out the body while Kyoko's head goes shopping with Tetsuo. And while they are out, Hikari teases the body but is unable to communicate with it directly. Tetsuo treats the outing like an experiment, but Kyoko is happy to explore the town without her body. She also tells Tetsuo that he should interview Yuki, who Hikari clings to a lot due to how cold the snow woman is. And the next day, Seiki overhears Tetsuo speaking to the principal to relax regulations on the students to help Kyoko carry her head easier. Seiki arrives early to the school and leaves late every day so she can avoid as many people as possible while commuting to work. She feels regretful for avoiding Tetsuo, but she has to stay away because of her power as a succubus. As a succubus, getting too close to others can lower their self-control, so she spends her life avoiding as many people as possible. She also accidentally gives powerful dreams to others when she falls asleep nearby. This means she lives an isolated life far away from others and has had no normal relationships. Tired from her long commute, she bumps into Tetsuo one day and finds that he doesn't seem that affected by her, but secretly he was hiding his reaction. Later, Hikari and Tetsuo discuss blood drinking for vampires, and if the act of drinking blood has lessened because the government provides blood to the vampires. She also gives him a kiss on the cheek, which doesn't faze him. Later, Kyoko goes to Seiki for advice on relationships, which fails because Seiki doesn't know anything and starts imagining her own fictional romance, which confuses the student. At school, Yuki is the target of bullying and rumors, and although she has been avoiding Tetsuo, she imagines speaking to Tetsuo, who has been kind to other demi-humans but has trouble finding the courage to see him. Tetsuo later finds her crying in the hallway, and he comforts her. While trying to find a solution to the bullying towards Yuki, Tetsuo meets Seiki, who apologizes for avoiding him, and she offers to help him understand the issues the demi-human students face at their school. Later, Hikari confronts the bullies for gossiping about Yuki. And later, Yuki tries to explain that she has been avoiding others because she is shy and not because she thinks she is better than the other students. The bullies eventually apologize, and Tetsuo thanks Hikari for intervening. The next day, Tetsuo gathers Seiki and the rest of the students together and tells them they can all work together if they run into any issues at the school, and he will raise any problems with the head staff. At the end of the day, Himari, Hikari's human sister, is suspicious of Tetsuo's intentions, and she walks with him to determine his motives. Tetsuo discusses the difference between the old vampires and how Hikari acts with her family. But Hikari sends her a misleading message, and Himari runs away suspicious of him. Yuki has her interview with Tetsuo, and she explains that when she entered high school, she tried to hide her identity as a demi-human by avoiding others, but she was forced to reveal herself when she overheated during a gym class. Because she avoided other students, she was also unable to make good friends. And since Yuki used to live in a cold climate before moving to her warmer high school, she has had trouble adapting to her school life. She is also scared of accidentally freezing other students, which could happen when she gets upset. Tetsuo tries to determine the source of her freezing power so that she can stop worrying, but they don't make any progress. And while she is having lunch with Hikari and Kyoko, Tetsuo researches the Snow Woman legends for a solution. He later tries an experiment with her, and they determine that her nervous feelings are creating cold sweat that freezes and that she should not be a danger to other students as her freezing would be limited to her sweat. He encourages her to act more relaxed and that she can feel safe to approach other students. Later, she is able to hang out freely with her friends, and she is able to speak to a boy who is interested in her. Himari and Hikari invite Tetsuo to their house to speak to their parents, and Tetsuo agrees because he is interested in how a family of humans and a vampire work. He later witnesses the twins arguing with each other over Hikari's private fridge that she is supposed to store her blood packs in, but instead uses it to hide desserts from the family. Tetsuo stays for dinner, and the parents explain that even though Hikari is a vampire, she fights and argues with her twin sister Himari just like a normal twin relationship. Himari later panics because she thinks that Hikari can't see her own reflection, but the vampire myth isn't true and Hikari can see just fine. Later that day it starts to rain, and since Kyoko doesn't have an umbrella she stays behind until the rain stops. Tetsuo takes care of her and then pretends to be asleep when Hikari's dad arrives to pick her up, since Kyoko leaves her body behind. Tetsuo watches as it writes him a thank you note. One day Seiki sees a boy crying in the hallway. He reveals his name is Kurtz and he doesn't go to the school, but he's separated from someone who was with him. Tetsuo arrives and they run into a large man who Kurtz accidentally takes down. Seiki introduces the large man as the police detective Yugaki, and the teachers find out Kurtz is actually a short police officer working with Yugaki. Yugaki later reveals to Seiki that Kurtz is immune to succubus powers and that he is a weapon of the police department. While Kurtz explores the school, Yugaki speaks to Tetsuo and tells him the government is interested in the well-being of the demi-humans, and he came to check up on how they were doing at the school. Yugaki asks Tetsuo to take care of Seiki, as the government has been having trouble taking care of succubus due to their effects on others. Later, when midterm grades arrive, Hikari and Yuki see that Kyoko and Himari have gotten great scores, but Hikari and Yuki have low grades. Tetsuo tells them they should do better, and Hikari starts crying because she got scolded for not studying. Yuki and Hikari agree to work together to raise their grades. Seiki later finds Yuki with some banned manga at the school, and they later speak about the work concerning demi-humans that exist in human media that exaggerate the powers of the demi-humans. Seiki later tells Yuki that when she was young she fought off bullies in her school days. Hikari, Yuki, and Kyoko study together, and Kyoko gives them advice on how to study better, and they later take a break with Tetsuo by holding a competition for Hikari on who has the best blood for the vampire. And after the next round of tests, Tetsuo compliments Hikari for improving her grades and receiving passing scores. A drunk Seiki is speaking to her teddy bear as if it is Tetsuo, imagining the teacher is drinking with her. She later gets a call from Yugaki, who encourages her to confess her feelings so that she can have a normal relationship. She decides she needs to stop running away from her powers, and she invites Tetsuo to have snacks with her. While eating together, she tries to test her powers on Tetsuo, who tries to keep himself from reacting. They later discuss the mechanics of her powers, and Seiki finds herself enjoying time with him. Tetsuo later meets with Yuki for experiments, as they try to find a way for Yuki to survive better in the hot summer. However, they can't find a way for Yuki to generate lots of ice, and so the rest of the girls just use the experiment to cool themselves down. And later at gym class, Yuki and Hikari almost overheat because vampires hate the sun and snow women aren't suited for hot climates. They retreat with Kyoko to Tetsuo's office for air conditioning, and he later brings them a watermelon. The girls and Seiki have lunch together, and Seiki despairs when she hears that Hikari gave Tetsuo a kiss on his cheek. Kyoko is also upset, so she goes home to watch romance shows. And at school she later teases Tetsuo, who is carrying heavy boxes, but she accidentally distracts him and he yells at her. He feels bad as she runs away, and she goes to her friends for help. Hikari and Yuki bring them together, and Tetsuo formally apologizes. Later at their next interview, Tetsuo takes Kyoko to his friend Salma, who is a physicist, to explore how her body and her head are connected. Salma theorizes that there must be a wormhole between Kyoko's head and her body, which raises the possibility that Dulohans have the key to humanity breaking the space-time continuum. They talk about Kyoko's lack of a visible neck and how it could facilitate a hidden wormhole for the Dolohan. And Salma comes up with more wild theories. Later, when he and Tetsuo speak alone, he compliments the teacher for his work, and the meeting inspires Kyoko to possibly become a researcher in the future. With the summer months approaching, the hot weather is proving difficult for Yuki and Hikari, and the group try to come up solutions on how to make their lives easier at school. At school, Tetsuo is approached by the vice principal, who warns him not to try too hard in taking care of the demi-humans, and that the students relying on him so much is not a good thing, especially when they eventually graduate and leave the school. Two boys at the school overhear the conversation and they talk with other human students about Tetsuo and the demi-humans, wondering if they have a responsibility to help their fellow student. Later, the girls approach Tetsuo, but he reluctantly brushes them off as he thinks about the vice principal's words on not to focus too much on the demi-human student. Hikari goes to look for Seiki, and on the way the other students explain to her what happened between Tetsuo and the vice principal. Seiki talks with the girls and explains that the vice principal was harsh, but well-meaning, and that they can try to cheer Tetsuo up. Meanwhile, Tetsuo is on the beach thinking about the semester and wondering if he has been too intrusive into the lives of his students and if he should step away from helping his demi-human students too much. He gets a text from Hikari that has a recorded thank you from all of them, thanking him for helping solve their problems at the school and to encourage him to continue. Hikari surprises him by joining him on the beach, thanking him personally, and that his students will be trying hard to fit in with others. And later at school, the vice principal apologizes to Tetsuo, as he has seen human students spending time with the demi-humans, and that human students at the school have become inspired by his actions to learn more about and accept the demi-humans. Hikari later visits Tetsuo's office to ask if she and her friends could reserve the school pool so that they can cool down during the summer. Tetsuo agrees, but he is reluctant because vampires have trouble in the sun and he is worried about the effect of the sun on her while she is swimming in the pool without shade. Hikari teases him and is confident that there won't be any effect on her while her friends are swimming together. And that night Seiki is stressed out because she asked Tetsuo for drinks and she stays up complaining about the situation with Yugaki. When she later speaks to Tetsuo, he invites her to watch over the girls. Tetsuo later speaks with Kyoko, and they talk about how in the legends Dullahans were associated with death and were often depicted as headless knights on a horse, and that the Dullahan fear of rivers might be because they could accidentally lose their heads in rivers. Hikari overhears and asks if Kyoko would like to experience her head being underwater, and she experiences underwater for the first time. And that night Hikari is sunburned but is otherwise unharmed, and she thanks Tetsuo for helping her make friends throughout the semester. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.